What's the creepiest? I'm quite sure I didn't move that story you got. This didn't turn out to be creepy, but for a while I was really confused by it. Every now and then when I'd wake up I'd find one of my belongings in a very strange place. My razor would be in a tub of Vaseline, or my phone would be across the room, or my clothes would be in the kitchen. I lived alone for part of this and was freaked the frick out. I later found out I was having seizures in my sleep and then just wandering around doing random crap. My family always jokes about how we live with a ghost named Harold. The first signs we saw were papers falling off the counter. Now, I'll just hear a Lego fall down. Very faint noise. The creepiest one was when I was showering and someone just opened the door and didn't say anything. I got super pissed off and started yelling. I was home alone. I lost my headphones once. They were missing for about a week. One day I came home, found one of my pillows on the floor in the middle of my bedroom and my headphones were lying on it in a neat little roll. I lived alone at the time. The guy living in your attic crawl space was returning them. Not what you were going for, but close enough. I was up at 2 AM studying for an exam the next day. I was reading slides and talking to myself. I get chatty on coffee. I was having trouble understanding one of my PowerPoints and I said out loud, I can't figure this out. Let's just skip it and see what's on the next one. At that moment, 2 bottles fell off my shelf. I then laughed and said I guess I can give it another look. The contents of that slide didn't appear on the exam the next day. That moment when 2 bottles save your butt. I lived alone, but kept noticing tiny things moved in my apartment. It was the bottom floor of a 2-story house, with a locked connector door. I started doing the tape a hair across the door thing, and discovered that the upstairs neighbor was somehow unlocking and entering my place every day. Needless to say, moved out of there quickly. Mom-in-law owns an antique store I managed. We had stuff go missing and reappear for months. It was too weird to be an employee. Like, the timesheets ended up in the bathroom, all the ink pens suddenly left the register and we're in a filing cabinet. Even better, I had a lady come in and tell me a certain table was haunted. Weird. I go to a festival to sell stuff and a lady in line for the bathroom looks at me and asks if I have a ghost at work. Super weird. Weird. One time my family went out to dinner and when we got back there was a pistol on my parents' bed. It was the one we never use and keep locked in the safe. No one would have taken it out so we had our detective SWAT neighbor come look around the house. He could find anything that would say someone else had been in the house. And none of us got the gun out. I didn't sleep very well for the next few weeks. My parents and brother went on vacation abroad a couple years ago, leaving the entire house to me for 2 weeks. And it was heaven. The nights could sometimes make me feel uneasy though, as our house is in the middle of the country with few neighbors and no street lighting or anything. So just pitch black silence until the morning hours. I'd often look out the window and imagine someone was out there in the dark and could see me, but I couldn't see them. Ended up closing the curtains out of paranoia and stuff. Feeling silly about how I was freaking myself out. A couple days of being alone later, I one morning wake up hours late, realizing my alarm hasn't gone off. I reach over to grab my phone, but can't find it. Getting up, I realize that for some reason, it's lying on my desk all the way across the room. Not that weird on its own. I feel a little uncomfortable because I never go to bed without my phone, but brush it off as a mistake. A week passes. I take a picture with my phone that I want to show a friend, and notice there's a few pictures I'd like. Just random stuff on it. Close-ups of my floor, my bed covers, my walls, pictures of my room from angles that really just look awful and you can barely tell what it's supposed to be. Again, I feel uneasy, but going by how these pictures look, I clearly took them by accident. Likely pressed the camera button by accident while holding my phone and walking. That's when I see there's a video, and I genuinely get chest pains just thinking about it. Even though I don't believe in the supernatural and know there's an explanation. It's a video of my bed, with me in it. You can only see my forearm, but you can hear me breathing very slowly, like I'm asleep. The angle the video was taken from can only mean it was recorded from my bedside. Fricking nope. Like my whole body froze reading this. I will be throwing my phone into the ocean now. When I was in elementary school, we went to a parent-teacher night. IDKY I went, but wherever. I took my iPod to listen to music in the car. When the event ended I couldn't find my iPod. I was freaking out. My mom decided that we would check the school tomorrow because it was getting late. When I opened the door to my room I saw the iPod on my bed. I have no clue how that freaking happened. It's been over 8 years and I still think about it. My contact lenses disappeared on me at a hotel. No, for a fact I set them in the bathroom the evening I arrived, and they were gone by morning. I never left the room and no one came in. Met my co-worker in the lobby that morning and asked how he'd slept. Terrible. This hotel is f***ing haunted was the first thing out of his mouth. Totally gave me chills because I had been getting creeped out the night before also. He said he woke up twice to a small girl jumping in his bed and laughing. We stayed there 2 weeks. The last morning when I am packing, there are my contacts exactly where I placed them when I arrived. Unrelated, but based on our usernames, I feel like we need to have some sort of contest. Not a perfect answer to your question, but related. I grew up in an old Victorian home, and my family was pretty accustomed to spooky stuff happening. For example, we would hear someone walking around upstairs when nobody was there. Doors would open and close, etc. So fast forward to about 4 years after I moved out of that house. I was 18 and had an in-law apartment in my mom's new house, which was also a refurbished old Victorian home. I was sitting on my couch watching TV with my ex, and the door to my bedroom swung open and slammed into the wall. After we confirmed that no one could get into the room, and that all windows were shut, etc., I proceeded to close the door. I kicked the door. I shook the door. I showed her that there was really no easy way for the door to do that. Besides, the way it swung open was really forceful. 10 minutes later, slam. The door did it again. Needless to say she believed me after that. Also, just to give an example of what happened in the old house. One night when I was 13, I was laying on my bed listening to music. Me and my 2 brothers shared one side of the attic, and my sister had the other. I heard my sister scream from her side of the room, so I shut my music off and walked across the room expecting that my younger brother was probably bullying her. Nope. Both of them were backed up to the wall, as well as you can back up to a slanted wall, and up the stairs came the sound of a heavy-set man in boots stomping his way up. I put my hand on the railing and could feel his weight on it as he approached. There was nothing to see though. We could only hear him and feel the ground shaking. Afterwards, I went downstairs and confirmed that the closet underneath those stairs was still packed with so many boxes that you couldn't fit inside. My step-grandfather was watching TV and heard the commotion, but he swore that nobody had come into the room. He was also basically bedridden, stuck on his chair, so he definitely didn't do it. I just want to say though, when I say that the sound was clearly a person stomping up the stairs, I mean that it was clear enough that you'd expect it to be a large man in boots. It just couldn't have been anything else. Used to have a black pyramid-shaped stone when I was a kid. I brought it home when I found it near a beach I lived nearby. When I brought that sucker home, it felt just wrong. Like something was off around my room and the whole place felt darker. Had nightmares and heard more creepy sounds in my room. The next morning I decided enough was enough. Get that crap out of my house. The creepy part was when I tried to find it. I couldn't find it anywhere. Even though I knew I put it on my shelf next to my small collection of rocks from the beach. But watching all of the horror movies, I forced myself mentally to think, frick it, stay at my house. I'll just leave it be. Next day, as if being fooled by my 7-year-old reverse psychology, the thing was back where it should have been. I picked it up, walked all the way to the lake, and threw that thing as hard as I could and as far as my tiny kid arms could muster back into the water. Never had issues with it since. Home alone, about to have a shower. We have these slow shut bathroom cabinets with mirrors on. I shut the cabinet like normal and left the bathroom to get my towel, which I forgot. When I got back, I noticed the cabinet door was slightly open. I know I shut it. I always do it the same way and it always shuts properly. I open it out of curiosity and then shut it again like normal. This time I watched it close, and it closed properly and fully. I had to get something out again, which I forgot, so I got it, shut the cabinet once more and started undressing. got undressed and went straightening back up from taking pants off. The cabinet door was slightly cracked open again. This freaked me the frick out for far too long until I shut it and watched it close. Turns out I was trying to shut it too hard and it kept bouncing back open. I'm so dumb. You told the story well. I read it until the very end expecting something creepy. LOL. Hooroo boy. Here goes. I have 3. 1. It was 4 in the morning. I was awake because I suck at sleeping and also because of some childhood issues. My door was closed. I liked it that way. I had a rubber doorstop stuck under it so that it couldn't just come open and would take a significant amount of freaking super strength to force through. My kitty, Jakey, for example, definitely couldn't just knock it open and come in despite knowing how to operate doorknobs. I was writing a short story for Halloween that I was supposed to read at school, pretty absorbed at that, when my cat jumped up and walked across my keyboard. Frustrating, but whatever. Then I realized I had specifically left the cat out of my room, checked everywhere, found him under my bed and put him out before shutting the door, so he could use the litter box at night. I turned around to check the door thinking I had left the doorstop out by mistake. Nope. Door was open. Doorstop was in the middle of the room on its side. I still don't want to know how it happened because in the 3 years I've had that doorstop in my door no amount of pounding, battering, ramming and even trying to shoot the lock out has ever gotten that door open unless I remove the doorstop. I now use like 5. 2. It was 2 in the afternoon. I was home alone sick. I was not getting up from bed because everything hurt and there was a mini fridge not even 5 feet away so I could just lean over, open, and get some juice or a snack. I remembered there was a vase on the end table by the door in the hall. The door was open so I could see things and get up to go to the bathroom if need be. I also remember now that my cat hadn't been adopted from the shelter yet and my old kitty had died. May you rest in tranquility, Opal. You were a good girl. There was no dog. I reiterate, I was home alone. Then I looked over at the door and saw that the vase was gone. I sat up and looked at the floor around the end table. It was not shattered. It was not laying on the ground. It was just gone. I got my butt up, grabbed the knife I kept by the bed and checked the whole house before deciding that it must have been some fluke of my imagination and that there was never a freaking vase to begin with. The trippy crap. When I walked back down the hall to go back to bed, the vase was there again. WTF. 3. This one's a little tamer. I had a pencil on my desk 1 second. I look away for a bit to check the clock and it's gone when I look back. I figured another kid had stolen it until I realized there was no one in the desk next to me and no one else would have been able to take it without me seeing them retreating back to their desk. Still, it was all a little weird. I already figured that there was a ghost in my childhood home, but one day that became very apparent when I heard the deadbolt turn and lock itself. This wasn't one of those new smooth deadbolts. It was an antique that needed a little extra oomph to turn, and I distinctly remember leaving it unlocked. I was watching TV, paranormal programming no less, and I heard the deadbolt turn over and lock. I ran over to see what was up, and sure enough it had locked itself. I was the only one in or near my house. And while I was a little shaken, I was super cool with it because Des was a friendly house ghost with our best interests in mind. Sorry for the bad formatting, I'm on mobile. So a little backstory. A few weeks prior to this my grandpa had died. This was back in 2014. So our house was split into 2 sections, connected only between 2 French doors. On one side was our pool room, plus a bedroom and bathroom. On the other side was a kitchen and a living room, 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom. The French doors were open, and my entire family was in the pool room. My entire family consists of me, my sister, my uncle, my mom, and my grandma. Nobody else was in the house. We're standing around the pool table, talking about whatever I don't remember. In the living room, there was a side table next to our couch. On the side table was a stack of newspapers and a small frisbee I had gotten while on a school field trip. All of us stop talking when we all look up and see the frisbee flying through the air towards us. It nearly touched the ceiling and landed right next to me. There were no windows or fans open, and even if there were, I doubt it would make the frisbee fly that high. My family suspects my grandpa's ghost had thrown it. That's quite wholesome. It's like grandpa wanted to play screw with his grandkid one last time. When I was in high school, my GF and best friend at the time were fricking with a Ouija board in her room. We were the only 3 people in the room the entire time we played. Got done after a kinda creepy message came across the board. My GF and I both assumed it was my friend moving the planchette. My mom was on the way over to pick my friend and I up to take us home and she pulled up. So my buddy goes out to the car while I was saying bye to the GF. Now let me say I was very familiar with the layout of her room and we were all in each other's eyesight the entire time this experience happened. Well, I hugged my girl and was about to tell her bye when I noticed that her hairspray bottle was perfectly balanced on the doorknob of her closet. It was the weirdest crap. None of us knew how it got there and we all felt uneasy that night and got no sleep at all. I burned the board later that night cause frick that. When I was 20/21 I moved back in with my mum in a flat in Mobit. This is Berlin. Place was straight up haunted or we had a stalker. Highlights include finding car keys in the flat, neither of us drives, and other objects that don't belong to us. Sometimes these would disappear again. Things going missing, like panties, makeup, small decorative turtles, and then reappearing. Picture on digital camera with unknown light source and after days of trying to recreate it. Taken from at least 7FT/8FT up, me on a chair. Basically, all this means maybe stalker, right? Well, also, weird sashaying swishing noises at night. Me waking up with cuts on my fingers. It got so far that my mum stayed up to monitor if I'm sleepwalking. I wasn't. Cuts still appeared. Same night she was keeping watch. Everything culminated in me and my mum having the exact same nightmare. Seeing this entity in our hallway trying to get to me. We moved out like 1-2 weeks later. Really bizarre time in my life. I kept the strange picture until 2009, but I don't know what happened to my backup CDRs after moving countries. But on the plus side, these days I'm very neat and everything in my place kind of has a designated space. And aside from being really good at predicting things, thank you unconscious, not much else spooky going on these days. I get little visions sometimes in my sleep of something that's gonna happen eventually. Then after a day I forget it, then when that moment comes up I get deja vu. The first home I owned I had several strange things happen while I owned it. On one occasion I had a favorite necklace go missing just prior to girls' trip to Mexico with my best friend. 2 days before we were to leave we both pre-packed and were going to run errands together to get a few things we still needed. I was looking everywhere for my favorite necklace that had a pair of matching earrings that I wore with it. I called my GF and asked her if I had left it at her house. Nope. I was really confused. BC I kept all my jewelry in a certain place in my bedroom. She came over and we looked through all my things again together, no luck. I had folded all my clothes for the trip in a neat pile at the end of my bed. We left the house, ran errands and came back to my house. I went upstairs to my bedroom and the necklace was on top of my folded clothes for my trip. Thank goodness my GF was there with me to be my witness. BC it was as if it dropped out of thin air and had been placed on that neat stack of clothes. She had goosebumps over her entire body and so did I. Neither one of us even knew what to say in the moment. BC we both saw the necklace immediately when we entered my bedroom. We still get weirded out to this day about that incident. I was grateful to whatever brought my favorite necklace back though. When I was in 4th or 5th grade I lost my glasses. I knew I had when I got home, but halfway through the evening they just disappeared. We searched the whole house, everyone's rooms, all the nooks and crannies, but couldn't find my glasses. I was crying so bad. Fast forward to the weekend. I'm sitting in my room on the computer and my mom walks into my room. She points behind me and goes, "Aren't those your glasses?" I turn around and sure enough, my glasses are on the floor behind me. To make it weirder, one of the lenses was popped out and placed right next to my glasses. The screw was still in the frame, but the lens was out. No one came in my room since I woke up that morning. My parents were convinced I lied about losing them because I accidentally broke them and didn't want them to know. Got called a liar and cried. Good times. My aunt and uncle live in a huge house that's pretty far out in the woods. A motorized security gate is at the end of their 400-yard long driveway. You can't even see this monstrosity from the road. They had given me keys and welcomed me to stay there during the school year so I didn't have to live on college campus or pay for an apartment. They take a lot of very long trips and vacations throughout the years, so it wasn't uncommon for me to have the whole house to myself for weeks at a time. One day I had woke up from an after class nap at around 5 p.m. Also not uncommon. I went into the kitchen to make myself a sandwich, but I noticed that the door that leads to the basement stairs was standing wide open. I was very confused because I knew I hadn't opened it. Nobody other than me was home, and even when they were home I couldn't remember the last time I had seen anyone open that door to go into the basement. In general, it stood out immediately. After a bit of concern, I finally just shut the door and ate my sandwich in peace without giving it much thought. Later that evening I was scrolling through Facebook and saw where people were talking about how a burglar who'd been breaking into people's houses in my community and stealing guns out of their gun safes after he had learned about a major security defect one gun safe company had. With a little tool, he was cracking open safes worth thousands of dollars in a matter of seconds. My aunt called that night and asked how things were going. I brought up the door and asked her if she ever had it open up randomly. Maybe the hinges would spring it open or air pressure pushed it or something. She got very worried and told me to go downstairs to check something. When I got to the basement, all 3 of their gun safes were wide open. Several very expensive hunting rifles and shotguns were missing. What makes it even more unnerving is the fact that all the doors were locked. He had to have come in through a basement window, opened the safe, and then walked up the stairs and walked right past me as I was laying asleep on the couch before he walked out of the front door. At least he was nice enough to just walk out and not harm you. Better news is that he wouldn't hit the house again since the guns were all gone. I was looking for my laptop stylus everywhere. I used a flashlight in my room, under the bed, checked every pair of pants before loading the wash. I cleaned my car. I used the flashlight and there. I stuck my hands under in seats, cup holders, glove compartment, went back inside and proceeded to clean the whole house. 2 days later I get in my car, which I had driven since cleaning, and it's on the floor, driver's side in plain sight. I've also had my car broken into a few times, but never had a window smashed. I obsessively lock the car multiple times. Every time it's been broken into, nothing has been taken. Just things from the back are in the front. The glove compartment is open, etc. I've had valuable electronics not even touched. I don't get it. Once someone broke into my mom's car. Only thing in there was our CDs. They threw them around but didn't take any of them. LMAO. No one likes our taste in music. I don't know if this counts, but last summer my grandma, parents, sister and I had lunch outside at our little picnic table. 2 hours later my dad was outside when a book he sat on the picnic table suddenly fell over. It wasn't windy. The table was balanced. There's no reason it should have moved. From where he was standing he spotted a massive hornet's nest on the underside of the table. We literally sat next to a hornet's nest and somehow didn't accidentally rub against it or something. The book mysteriously falling down honestly probably saved us a lot of pain and a trip, especially because we were having little kids coming in town later that month. We still don't know what caused the book to fall down. For the first maybe 6 months living in my current house, the low kitchen cabinets, like floor level ones, would randomly be open. I would leave the kitchen with them closed and come back a few minutes later and they would be open. I thought I was crazy, but my wife noticed it too and it happened just about every day. We joked that it was a ghost at first, but it kept happening, but only when we weren't in there. Much later I heard a scratching in the kitchen and it turned out it was my cat the whole time. He would open them and just hang out in there. I have 2. I moved to Guam to be with my fiance at the time. My first night there, I woke up because I felt my side of the mattress move very lightly and only in a specific spot I wasn't on. I rolled over and saw an elderly man leaning over me and looking kinda inquisitively at me. I was confused and so turned to wake up my fiance. When I looked back, the man was gone. About 6 months later, my husband and I were sitting on our large sectional at opposite ends watching TV. I looked to the left where our bedroom was and saw a shape shadow thingy move from our room to the laundry room, which was closed off with a curtain. The only rational thing I could think of was, where is our dog and why would he be in the laundry room? So I asked my husband where our dog was and says, right here laying between my feet. I freaked out and told him I saw a shadow thing move to the laundry room, and when he looked over, the curtain was still moving as if something walked through or past it. My husband's keys disappeared for a week before reappearing on a shelf in our headboard. We couldn't figure out what had happened until we caught our cat dragging them off one day. I missed the word keys on the first read through and thought you were saying your husband disappears and reappears on the shelf. This just happened a week ago. I was in the laundry room, starting a load of wash. I use a liquid detergent that is in a bottle. You can sit on its side and you can use a spout to push the liquid out into a cup. This was a brand new bottle of detergent and very heavy. I started the wash and turned and walked out of the room. I got a few steps out of the room when I heard a loud crash. I went back, and sitting by the door of the laundry room was the detergent. It was on its side and leaking. I just stared at it for several moments, trying to make sense of what just happened. It was a new bottle, so it was heavy. It was not on the edge of the shelf. I'm sure of that. I had just used it. The spout was over the edge, but the rest of the bottle was solidly on the shelf. If the wash had been on the spin cycle, I could imagine the vibration might have shaken the bottle to the edge of the shelf if the bottle wasn't full. But the bottle was full and the load had just started. The machine had still been filling up with water, and the bottle was quite a distance from where it had been on the shelf. If it had simply fallen, I would think it would have been closer to the washing machine. It sits on the shelf right above the machine, but it ended up several feet away, by the door of the room. I still have zero explanation for what happened. This be full. Yeet. The ghost, probably. Not me, but my history teacher told me a story about a guy from the Stasi, East German governmental organization which spied on the East Germans, who got a copy of a key to a woman's house and moved stuff around when she was out because she was against the government at the time. That was called Zersetzung. Basically subtle freaking up with your psyche. Pictures move to be slightly askew, etc. I came home from work late at night, so I remember having to park far from my apartment, all the way on the opposite side of our parking lot. I remember parking far away. I know this for a fact. But the next day when I left the house to go to class, it was around 2 PM, so my car was parked all morning and afternoon. My car was parked right in front of my apartment. I knew I parked far away, so I was really confused and freaked out. Also, the parking brake was pulled up so far that it was stuck and I struggled to pull it down. I know someone moved my car, but my roommates don't have access to my keys and would never take them. They don't have any reason to. I swear I'm not crazy, but it's so weird. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.